for your kind information, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's uh, Can the Subaltern Speak is a very long, tedious, critical essay. Okay. As I discussed with you yesterday, uh, now and then continuously it was changed, edited and re-edited. Okay, so that's how it became totally a critical essay of 100 pages. So uh, you just cannot concentrate on only this essay. You have many other essays. Okay, what is important, you should know what she wants to argue, what is her argument. Okay, so we cannot spend more than 3 classes on this essay. We cannot spend, because we are working within a time frame and we have to cover the remaining syllabus also. But why these essays are introduced now? Only to draw your attention towards what kind of the critical theories are evolving, coming up. Okay, in future, how you should look at this world, how you should study literature, and how you should select your field of research. Because you know very well that just the completion of MA is not end of your education or end of your course. Okay, it is rather in a way a step into the world of research. So far you were enjoying the text, but right now you have to develop a critical perspective, critical note. You should look at each and every object, idea, person, individual, not just as an individual, but looking around the whole atmosphere. You must conclude the things. Otherwise, your readings will be incomplete. Your opinions will be incomplete. Okay, that is the purpose behind introducing all these theories. It may be feminism, it may be subalternism. Okay, it may be Gayatri Chakravarti or any critical thinker of the world. Now, keeping this point in the mind, we have to skip and skim, apply the method of skip and skim to cover syllabus within the time frame. So now I will go to page number 76. Okay, 76 of the same essay. Yesterday I told you she is basically Indian, but outrightly, openly, she has made a statement that though I am Indian Bengali woman, I don't want to identify myself with South Asianity. Okay, my concerns are universal. As far as the concern, as far as the desire of looking at the world is concerned, I don't want to divide myself, whether south and north. It should not be a hurdle in understanding the total problem of humanity. Problem is problem, whether it happens in England or in America or in South Africa or in India. Problems are problem. Okay, that's why now in the history of English literature, many such platforms were created where the problem of the humanity was seriously discussed. I would like to quote some of the examples. For example, mm, after the Second World War, all the great thinkers of the world, Ernest Hemingway from America, okay, and some of the very important writers like writers from England, and a great novelist and educationist like Rabindranath Tagore and Premchand. Many people they gathered and they started thinking over the subject. What is the subject? Subject is how to safeguard the man. Man is used like a puppet in the hands like dictators like Hitler and Mussolini. They want to safeguard the man. So here, whether the fighting is in Europe or in India, that is not the question. But that was the total threat to humanity. Okay, right now we are in a condition, pandemic condition. Corona is, whether it is affecting China or America, that is not the point. Okay, it is totally a big problem that has spoiled the total beauty of the human society. So, what we should do, all the thinkers, all the doctors, all the politicians, how to gather and face this problem. So, Gayatri Spivak is arguing the same thing, and she's saying subalternism is not only in the military, not only in the field of the economics, not only in South Africa, it is there in one or other form all over the world. Okay, it may be in the female society, it may be in the hierarchical system of the Indian society, it may be in a racial system of South African society, but problem is existing everywhere. So how to solve it? So in page number 76, she discusses her connection with India and how she started looking at the world staying in India. This is not to declare the way, okay, this is not to describe the way things really were or to privilege the narrative of history as imperialism, as the best version of history. Okay, imperialism, Samrajyavada cannot be taken as a model, a rule to the human society. It is rather to offer an account of how an explanation and a narrative of reality was established as the normative one. To elaborate on this, let us consider briefly the deepenings of the British codification of Hindu law. First, a few okay, a few disclaimers. In the United States, the third worldism currently afloat in humanistic disciplines is oftenly ethnic. I was born in India and received my primary, secondary, and university education there, including 2 years of graduate work. My Indian example could thus be seen as a nostalgic investigation of the lost roots of my identity. Okay, so yet I know, even as I know that one cannot freely enter the thickest of the motivation, I would maintain that my chief project is to point out the positivist, idealist variety of such nostalgia. I turn to Indian material because, in the absence of advanced disciplinary training, that accident of birth and education has provided me with sense of historical canvas. Historical canvas. So I hold on some of the pertinent languages that are useful tools for bricoleur, especially when armed with the Marxist skepticism of concrete experience as the final arbiter and a critic of disciplinary formations. Yet, the Indian case cannot be taken as a representative of all countries, nations, cultures, and the like that may be invoked as the other of Europe and as self. Here, then, is a schematic summary of the epistemic violence of the education. Epistemic violence means jnana himse. Okay, epistemic violence of education of Hindu law. If it clarifies the notion of epistemic violence, my final decision of widow sacrifice may gain added significance. At the end of 18th century, at the end of 18th century, Hindu law Hindu law, insofar as it can be described as entirely a unitary system, operated in terms of four texts that stage uh, Shastra, okay, and Vyavahara and Shruti. These are four stages of Hindu law. Okay, the second two texts and the performed, yes, and the performed were seen as dialectically continuous. Legal theopractitioners were not in any given case certain if this structure described of law or four ways of settling a dispute. The legitimation of the Paulian through a binary vision is the narrative of codification. I offer as an example epistemic violence. So, the narrative of stabilization and codification of Hindu law is less well known than the story of Indian education. See this line, it's very important. The narrative of the stabilization and codification of Hindu law is less well known than the history of a story of Indian education. So it might be well start there. Consider the often quoted pragmatic lines from Macaulay's infamous Minute on Indian Education. We must at present do our we must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. A class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste. Watch what, see it, what Macaulay has written about Indians. Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in 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 opinions, in morals, and in intellect. To that class, we may leave it to refine the vernacular dialects of the country, to enrich those dialects with terms of science borrowed from Western nomenclature, and to render them by degrees fit vehicles for conveying knowledge to the great mass of population. So, the education of colonial subjects complements their production in law. One effect of establishing a version of the British system was the development of uneasy separation between disciplinary formation in Sanskrit studies and the native, now alternative tradition of Sanskrit high culture. Within the former, the culture explanations generated by authoritative scholars matched the epistemic violence and legal project. What Gayatri Spivak would like to discuss through these two examples from Hindu law and Macaulay's education system. Now we will try to understand. Okay, we will try to touch upon the basic concern of Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's important essay, The Subaltern. Can the Subaltern speak? Okay, so what she wants to say.